Culture evolves at the speed of light, just like your financial needs. When it comes to your money, Credit Karma keeps you in the know and ahead of the game. You can count on Credit Karma to keep up with your financial needs as they evolve. We'll help you monitor your progress and give personalized recommendations so you can make strides towards your goals and find your way to money. Make sure you're on the right track, no matter where you are on your financial journey. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on.
Welcome, you guys, back to Kate and Ty Break It Down. We are on episode, don't even remember.
Nope, don't recall.
But we appreciate you guys listening and chiming in, and we've gotten so much feedback.
We really have.
Like, we've been using our Instagram page to kind of bring you guys into this whole experience, which I think is the best, because you guys bring up stuff that I would never even have thought of.
No, I know, and I forgot. I posted another,
what?
Juicy secrets thing today, and because I always think it's so fun just to speak to them. Yeah. And I forgot to look at it. I posted it this morning. So I really like that, Tyler and I, we can create polls and ask you guys questions, or, we really want to do a segment called unlicensed advice, because we're both not therapists, but we can kind of give you what we would do in a certain scenario or situation.
Yeah, you're hanging out with friends and you're like, hey.
Right. And I saw
advice.
somebody's comment on it was like, can you just be my unlicensed therapist forever? I was like, that is funny.
Sure. I'll do it for free.
See, there's already some good anonymous secrets. Yeah, I might have to pull those up at the end. But for later on in today's episode, I do have some of your guys' questions that you wanted unlicensed advice on, so we'll talk about that later. And just so everybody knows, whenever you send something in, I always keep it anonymous, so that way it just keeps people private.
I think it's
I like it that way.
Unless they say hey, you can say my name,
right?
Even if you tell us so that we can say your name, we're probably not gonna say your name. I think it's better when it's anonymous, because it just works better.
You don't have to worry about people figuring out who you are or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I know, you were talking about what? You wanted to talk about certain things they have on the show. I was thinking about talking about, mental health stuff.
Good. I think it kind of all comes together in that realm.
Okay.
But, I think it's important that we, in the beginning of this, kind of go through stuff that we feel we should just clarify things on.
Okay.
Or explain further, or whatever.
Okay.
And the first thing that I was like, what I see a lot of is, obviously, people are taking the clips that we filmed, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of using it in nowadays way, and this is what was going on back then, and how
trying to dissect it.
Yeah, whatever they're trying to do. And of course it always comes back to when you were just had severe postpartum depression, and when you were down and out, and when you were worried about your weight, and remember we did it was a whole season.
Oh my god, that was the worst season of my life, honestly.
It was the worst season. Actually, it was 2 seasons. I feel like we had a certain producer and it just wasn't working.
No, but I just felt also too, it was just very weight driven. The whole story was about my weight, and I'm like, why is this a subject, especially when I just had a baby, mind you?
Yeah.
And then we're talking about weight. That's not good for any female.
Yeah, well, I also feel it's almost like when you're filming a reality show, it's you bring up one thing, even if you're just talking to the producer, just chilling.
Right.
And then they go, oh, and they attack that situation and go, okay, let's because
they're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like we said before in previous episodes where we would say stuff and they're like, that's interesting. We're like, what? How is that interesting?
And I feel like that season was the moment you mentioned about losing the baby weight, because everything was about you're our first child, we're parenting, whatever, you're getting married now, and it came all about your weight. And I remember being we talked about it all the time. You always mentioned about I want to lose weight, I'm gonna do Weight Watchers, I want to do this, I want to do that. And so we talked about it a lot, and it never was a negative bad thing. But I think when you're in a situation, you're filming a show, and they're like, hey, hey, we're eating a meal, right? And we're talking about, and they're like, hey, so how's the weight loss thing going?
Right. It's like, oh, of course, it puts an awkward spin on it. It's like, what? I wouldn't really be talking about this while I'm eating dinner.
Yeah.
Like, what?
So I feel like when that situation was going on, it was like, what the TV didn't show was that behind closed doors, you were talking about how bad you want to lose weight.
Yeah, how I needed to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Because I do need help with those certain things.
And those are your words. You're like, listen, you need to hold me accountable because I'm not good at this. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, I think, 10, 11 years ago, my delivery was off. I messed up tremendously with my delivery. I won't say, I don't think my intent was wrong.
Yeah.
I just feel like the way I delivered and expressed that intent was wrong.
Oh, I can, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
And especially when you're filming a show and this is like the 4th time they've asked this question.
Right.
It's like, all right, how much points is that? Like, what's, after a while it gets super annoying, but I did it because that's a part of our job and we were filming. So I just feel like I've been seeing all these comments and the people tagging us, and I'm like, well,
I think the biggest one that I see the most is people always play that scene where you're like, well, I don't want a heifer for a wife.
Oh my God,
but they don't know the backstory of it. Like, it's not like it's not like you were saying that I'm a heifer, I'm going to be a heifer, but I feel like that's how people take it. Like, we joke around shit like that all the time. Like, you always say, like, well, I'm sure you wouldn't want getting down and dirty with somebody who's got a big old beer belly.
Yeah, like, Santa Claus, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. We joke about that stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like in that context, I notice a lot of the clips they play, they don't play the afterwards where it was like, well, do you think I'm a heifer? And I'm like, no, my God, no.
Well, right, because on like TikTok and stuff, they'll edit it.
Yeah, or so it fits their narrative and it works good for their story.
Right.
But I'm like, like that heifer scene, bro, I will never.
You'll never be able to live that down.
Ever live it down. But I think it's interesting because they play it as if I called you one.
Yeah, they do.
Do you think I called you a heifer?
No, I do not think that you called me a heifer.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad, because I remember thinking, like, you don't, like, there's no way, like, I hope that never came across like I was calling you.
People must really think that I'm just like some abused pushover. You know what I mean?
I don't know,
and that
honey.
blows my mind.
I have no clue.
Because as far as just like how we talked in the last episode about you forcing me to do an adoption, now you're calling me a heifer and I just stay with you.
What the fuck?
Like, do people must really think I'm like a weak bitch?
I think
that's how it comes across to me. I'm wow.
I think what they do is they try to understand why would this, what's an excuse for her to stay or this to work out?
I don't have to have an excuse.
And that's the thing. There is no excuse because I never called you a heifer. It was the producer asking Tyler, what do you look for? I can't remember what she said. And I was like, well, obviously I don't want no, I'm being honest. Yeah. You asked me what I wanted or didn't want. And I was being honest. And I felt like, just the same way I'd ask you, like, do you want some big old heffing dude?
Right.
You're drinking beer belly guy, and you're like, no. And I'm like, all right, cool. Now, I think it's ironic because I think if you said that, I don't think you get as much hate.
Probably not.
Do you know what I'm saying? It was the fact that I had said what I said, and then I'm a guy and you're a girl. And I think it obviously I get it.
Yes.
Looking back. And then I also feel like when we were doing all those scenes and they were asking, always brought up when we were eating. It was like,
yeah, it was all the time when we were eating.
Quesadilla thing,
oh God, yeah.
Oh, how's the weight loss going as you're taking a bite? And I'm like, oh, it just came across so harsh.
Well, and I think for me, it was just like, why is this? I just don't understand why it's becoming the whole part of my life. My life is so much more than me like wanting to lose weight before I get married,
Yeah, but also one thing that they don't understand is that it was like 2 seasons. One where you were pregnant, and then I felt like they just kind of continued on with the weight thing after that because when you were pregnant, you had gestational diabetes.
Yeah,
and your doctor was like, it's a big concern, and you went in there and you gained it, and she was like, you can't. Yeah, something happened.
Yeah, but I do recall though, like I had my gestational diabetes on point.
You did,
like, I was because it scared the shit out of me. Do you remember when I went in there? I was like crying, like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I can't eat chicken strips with ranch. Like that was my shit, But so no, I was and so at that point when I found out that I had gestational diabetes, I was like so anal about tracking stuff and my sugars were so good. And I ended up not gaining any weight after that because I was so like, it scared me.
Yeah, it scared the hell out of me too. And that's what I think people don't understand is that I was making these, I was making these comments in these I was bringing up these concerns based off of like being concerned. I was like, I'm concerned because she lists all those. I went to the appointment with you and she listed all those things that could possibly happen to the baby.
Yeah, the baby could be bigger, like
all this stuff, and I'm like, what? Like it freaked me out. So I felt like the way it was portrayed was that I was like doing it in a
like an aggressive controlling,
like you motherfucker. What the hell's wrong with
like seemed to take it in, but it wasn't like that. I
was concerned. I was scared.
I was gonna say you're more or less concerned for me, my well-being, and the child that is ours that I'm carrying. Yeah, I
also feel like it comes down to like I'm concerned for your health. So my intent was my concern for your health. My delivery wasn't very good. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're a very like. I know you, so it's like
they don't
right. And I know you on such a deep level where, you're very blunt and very just like, oh yeah, that's not it. You know what I mean? But I know how you are. And also people don't see behind the scenes when I'm like, shut up, you fucking cocky fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever I need to say, like you're cocky as fuck, or I come around and fucking show my finger, Dude,
I don't know if any other guys out there, but it's so irritating, dude. Because
I like to poke
else's wife could just, anything random, and she comes out with this finger trying to shove it up my ass, and I swear to God, I'm like, get over it! Like it makes me clench up.
Well, yeah, I know. It would be very weird if you liked it,
I mean, what? I don't know. But
some guys probably like that.
Oh, they're out there.
Yeah, so I guess it wouldn't be weird.
Feel like I don't know. I just feel like that's something I see a lot, and I'm like, I take full accountability for my delivery. It was wrong.
We were also kids.
I was young. I was naive.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about postpartum depression. I didn't know about, like, I guess my main thing was that I knew you didn't take it offensively.
No, I didn't.
And so if you would have said
I also asked you to hold me accountable.
You did. Yes. And they didn't put that on camera, obviously.
Well, that wasn't filmed though either.
Right. But, and I asked you, like, is this hurting you? Like, are you offended? And you said no. And so I feel like you would have, and if you would have said, yeah, that really hurt my feelings, I would have been like, holy shit.
Yeah, you would have felt
I'm
like
so
shit.
sorry. Like, that wasn't my intent. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to say that. But looking back at clips and the music they play and how they cut, I mean, I see people's perspective.
And like you said, maybe your delivery was wrong, Do
you think my delivery was wrong?
I mean, I can see like how people could internalize what you said in a different way with your delivery. Yes.
Yeah. But so
that's what I'm saying. Like, I know we've been together for so fucking, like, do people forget that shit? Like, we've been together for so long that, like, I just know you as a person. And I know that, and also too, like, I know your heart. Like, you're not the type of person that is going to want to say degrading things to me because you love me.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So,
and I also feel like I trust you to tell me, hey, that was fucked up, or hey, that was wrong.
Or I would say that hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Like, and I'd be like, oh my God, so I don't know. I just feel like that was something that I see a lot, which I'll probably never live that down.
Probably not.
Fine.
And people are still going to always think that I'm a weak ass bitch.
Okay. And they're going to still say that I called you a heifer, and it is what it is. That's fine.
Well, if you watch the clip, you don't say, you're a heifer, I don't want you as a wife. Yeah. You said, well, of course I don't want a heifer for a wife. Like, that's different.
And I was literally answering the producer. She asked the question. I was answering her. I was like, well, I don't want no heifer for a wife. I mean, she asked me that question.
Yeah.
So, like, what I would want or what I wouldn't want. So I was just answering the question with my truth. I guess, you know what I mean? But then there's also a scene that I forgot we filmed, and it was like, we're eating dinner with your dad and his girlfriend at the time.
I've seen that clip recently.
You see it? And I watch it back, and I'm like, ugh. It was rough. That scene was...
It was cringy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad because it was like the whole table was like, well, yeah, it's going on 1,200 calorie diet and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they aired my part speaking about how, she used to eat so much, so little, and now
right, and they eat like a bird.
And you said it first. You're like, well, I used to eat so much little, and then I was like, I piggyback off what you said and was like, yeah, she used to eat all the time and get really full, and they didn't air the part of you saying it first about you saying, well, I used to eat really not a lot at all, and get full really fast. But that scene, I was like, ooh, God.
Yeah, it looked cringe.
And then I thought about my, ooh.
And my dad was like saying stuff, and like, his girlfriend, yeah.
I was like, dude.
And I think I was just irritated with the whole thing, and my face was just like, oh my God.
No, because that was probably the 5th or 6th conversation the producer wanted us to have.
That we've had about weight, yeah.
Those 2 seasons were just...
Yeah, that was hell.
It was. It was annoying. And it was...
Isn't that funny how like you see like clips and stuff that people post and you're like, I don't even remember filming that. Never even know that what it's filmed.
Well, I think a lot of it when you had postpartum depression was pretty like blurry. Because I remember you were like on the couch a lot, and I remember being like, the cameras were coming to film, and I remember feeling anxious because I'm like, oh my God, like maybe we should go film in the kitchen or something because, you were laying down on the couch a lot or whatever. And so like, I remember feeling anxious, like, oh my God, like I don't want to. I almost
look like a couch potato.
Yeah, no, I didn't want them to see you in that way. Like I was so like worried about you that I was like, I don't want them to see her in this way.
You're like, this is not my wife.
Yeah, it's not her. This is not who she is. Like,
well, we were married at that point, but yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know about postpartum depression, so I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Going on. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. I just didn't know what was going on. You know what I mean?
I think it's crazy because like people ask me questions a lot about the postpartum and stuff, and the weird part for me was I didn't even know that I had it until I was out of it.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Like when I was going through it, I just was going through it, I guess. Like, yeah, but when I got out of it on the other side of it and looked back, I was like, oh, wow.
We were very disconnected. You were very like couch, phone, bed.
Yeah. And I was very, I was like, I don't think people realize, but that was in the beginning stages also of my mental health decline. That was the first time in life that I've ever experienced anything with mental health.
Panic attack, yeah.
Yeah, any massive panic attacks out of nowhere or anything. So I also was on like a massive high dose of antidepressants, which is crazy because it didn't even help with the postpartum depression. No. Come to find out, years and years down the road, when I did a genetic testing, found out that medicine wasn't even working within my body. So it makes sense why it wouldn't help the postpartum because it wasn't even helping me mentally, let alone.
You were literally like a robot. And I think people don't really, I think people look back at that and a lot of the scenes that were aired were us talking about certain stuff. You're late for your appointment. And at that point, I am so naive with postpartum depression in general. And also just frustrated that this is happening and I'm not understanding why. We're about to get married. I'm like, who am I marrying? This isn't you know what I mean? I'm going through my own shit, but I didn't want to like pour it all out because I didn't know what was going on. And so I was trying to tread lightly, and I guess I sucked at treading lightly because I am too blunt and I just speak and whatever. Like I just remember feeling very stuck. Super like stuck. And also concerned that, is this the rest of our life? Is this what's going to be like? Like, this is crazy.
Well, and like you said, it comes from just people being uneducated about postpartum depression. And then also you look at it now, I mean, now we're, as we've dug even deeper about the adoption stuff, I never knew that, first moms or birth moms, they have a way higher likelihood of having postpartum depression when they go to parent their children.
Yep.
And of course, now that I'm like older and think about it, I'm like, of course, that's totally logical. Like, how could you not? Your body remembers all the stuff that you went through with this baby that you placed. Of course, it's going to freak out when you have another child.
It's like post-relinquishment parenting. Yeah. They call it like, a birth mom who was placed and then she goes on to have other kids, like post-relinquishing parenting. It's a super triggering thing. And I think, honestly, like, look back at it, I think it's exactly what happened. You had Nova. We were all we're supposed to be happy, and you're like, why am I not like feeling like what's going? It's like, I think it just was
subconscious shit.
Yeah, it was just like your body remembers the score.
Yeah, your nervous system, like, because even after we got married and stuff too, I still had it. Like, people think that postpartum depression is only for a few months, and it depends on the person. It can last up to like over a year with some people.
Some are not longer. Yeah.
And there's very much different degrees of postpartum depression too. I think mine was just like anxiety.
Yeah. Because it's not like you didn't bond with Nova. Like,
I definitely did.
Yeah, some women like, talk about like not being able to bond, didn't really hold, didn't like have the desire. And you weren't like that at all. You just seemed very robotic. Just like, I remember talking to you and you'd be like, yeah. And I was just like, God, there's no like reciprocal anything.
And I was overly dosed too.
Yeah. And you were like, just like this numb walking thing.
I mean, that's definitely how it was. I think I couldn't feel anything. I was just there, if that makes sense.
That's what
I remember when my great grandma died, and I was like, I didn't even cry.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I not feel? I think I even remember telling you that, like, I'm not even like, why don't I even just feel sad about it? Like, you didn't feel happy, sad, excited, nothing. You were just kind of there.
Neutral.
Yeah. Very neutral.
It's so weird when you think about it, because you were not ever like that.
No.
So I knew something was off. I just didn't know how to deal with it. And like, I don't know. I just feel, looking back, I just feel really bad. I wish I would have been more educated. I wish someone would have like pulled me aside and said like, hey, have you asked for this? Have you tried this? Have you done that? You know what I mean? I was just trying to like I was almost like trying to pretend like it would just go away.
Well, don't beat yourself up too bad about it. I mean, we all didn't know what was going on.
I was what do you call it? I was
worried, frustrated, angry.
Yeah, I was worried for sure, but I think the worry manifested into frustration, because I'm like, all right, get up. We're gonna go for a walk. You're gonna like, come on, like, you know, and then when you just didn't want to do it, or you had no enthusiasm, I was like, I just want to shake you. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that concern turned into frustration. I think the frustration is what was delivered when we were filming, because they wanted, of course, to dive deep into that. Oh, she's on the what's going on? And I'm like, ugh. You know, so yeah, I don't know. I just feel bad. I feel if I could go back in time, I wish I would have been, you know, much more educated and more soft or. Well,
and obviously you must have had a change of thinking or mind eventually, because it wasn't even documented. But I mean, when you came up to our room, you know, when I was upstairs laying in bed, and you just said, something's wrong. Are you okay? And then that gave me the freedom where I just broke down. I was like, no, I don't think I'm okay. Like, I think something's wrong here, you know?
I remember at first, like, I don't know. And I was like, you don't know? Like, I mean, usually people answer like, yeah, I'm good. Or no, I'm not. You were like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
And like, I remember like going up to the room too, because obviously when you went up there to take a nap, I just left, I'm like, whatever, it's fine. But I remember going up there, I'm like, I can't do this anymore, because I remember thinking in my head, it comes to a point when you're dealing with someone else who has a mental illness or has something going on, where burnout fatigue. It's like you get,
well, it takes a toll on the other person.
The caretaker gets like caretaking fatigue. They get burnt out. They feel whatever they feel, and so I felt like I can't do this anymore, because then what? If I lose myself by trying to always protect this, then what?
Well, right. Yeah.
Now Nova's got two parents who are checked out. You know what I mean? Because I'm over here, you know, whatever. So I remember going up to the room and just being like, we got it. Something's got to happen.
Right. Something's got to change.
Yeah.
Well, and remember, you were a driving force to being like, we're going to go see a psychiatrist. Like, there's people you can talk to, you know, all of the things. Because, and also I feel like it was a blessing that I had you in my life during that time, because your mental health journey started at a younger age. So you kind of knew about seeing psychiatrists and therapists and things like that. Mine literally just smacked me in my face, and I was like 20
or 21 or something.
Yeah, and I never experienced anything like that in my entire life. So I was like, what is this feeling? This is scary, you know? So, and you knew kind of the steps to push me in the right direction to help myself.
Yeah, it was scary. I mean,
oh yeah, it was scary for me too.
Because I also feel like people don't know what it's like to be the other person. They're like, oh my God, you know, I feel so bad. She's depressed, and but no one knows what it's like when you love somebody, watching them do it.
Yeah.
Watching them just crumble.
Yeah.
In front of you, and like you can't do anything about it. Like, it's like you feel so helpless. It's like, oh my God, like, what do I do? So I feel like at the same time, I was going through my own stuff, just putting it on the back burner.
Yeah, which is not fair.
Well, no, but knowing that I'll come back to this.
Yeah.
Like you said, I had a little bit more experience with like therapy and stuff like that, being a younger kid. So I knew, I was like, I'm just going to put this on the back burner. I'll visit later.
Yeah.
But you were the priority at that point. So I feel like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like the postpartum depression stuff needs to be talked about more. Like,
I mean, it does. You hear these stories on the news of that one, you know, the one mom killing all three of her kids and jumping out of the window trying to kill herself. There's been a newer story too about this mom shooting all of her kids and then shooting herself. And they're all linked back to postpartum depression. And it's because there aren't enough resources out into the world to help women. I mean, you go to your doctors and you answer like a test, and if you comes up that you feel like you have postpartum, they're like, here's some pills, but nobody directs you into like, you need to go to therapy. It's normal. It's okay. Here's support. Like, there needs to be more support for women. after birth.
Yep.
And just help out there.
Well, it's one of those things too, like you said, you go to the doctor and they say, here's some pills. That's half the treatment plan.
Right.
Any psychiatrist or therapist will tell you pills are 50%.
Mm-hmm.
The other 50% is therapy. Like, dude, you can't just take a pill. If you could just take a pill, everyone would be on a pill. We would have no mental health crises, right? You just take a pill and everything would be fine.
Yeah, that doesn't solve it.
So that's the whole point, is that pills are 50% of the treatment plan.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't understand.
Even 50.
Yeah, I mean, it
might be a little less because you having to go to talk therapy and shit is hard ass work.
Hard as hell. And scary.
Yeah.
Like super scary, but
I don't think people realize too, when you talk about being the other person and watching your person that you love too, those people need support too. Like the caretaker, the
burnout fatigue. Yeah, I didn't know about it at all. To my therapist was like, "Oh, you're burnt out," and I'm like, "Okay." I'm a dad, and like, sure, whatever. She's like, no, you're not understanding. It's like a thing. It's like a caretaking fatigue. Like you literally, and they can lead into caretaking. You can get depressed.
Right. Oh, it makes sense.
What? And I remember, like I said, I was freaked out because I was like, oh my God, I can't afford that. I said, we can't both be depressed people. Like, like, oh shit.
And it was like 10 months. I can't figure it out.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, like what? And so I remember like learning about it and reading about it and okay, like this is what I got to do. And that's when I kind of
makes sense though.
That's when I was kind of like, okay, I can't put this in the back burner for too much longer.
No,
bring it forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think I think the post birth resources for women should be higher, and I think like I said, I vividly remember you go to your OB, you answer like a little spreadsheet, yes or no questions, 1 out of 10, and they're like, oh, you're okay, or oh, you're mild, or oh, you're severe, and it's like, well, here, go, you have to get on a Zoloft or whatever. And it's like, okay, but what about like support groups or psychiatrists or just counseling? There's a lot of books out there now where, people talk about their experience. And also like, what about genetic testing? Like, why are we not, genetic testing is what you do to figure out what your body metabolizes as far as medication goes. It works for everything from Tylenol to antipsychotics. It'll tell you exactly what medication will not work and what medication will work.
Yeah.
Why we're not implementing that into the medical field is weird to me. Like that should be literally a paid for insurance covered thing where you get a genetic test done every time that you go to a doctor. And then once you get that list, okay, that why be a guinea pig? For medications.
I don't know, because I mean, when I was in treatment and the doctor there was like, I think you should, do you want to do genetic testing? And he explained it to me about how, you don't have to do the guinea pig stuff and you find out what works for your body. I was like, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah. It was expensive, but it was worth it.
Yeah, my insurance wouldn't cover it, but I was like, I don't care. Like, that's important to me. And then I got the results back and he was like, you were on 200 milligrams of Zoloft and your body was only metabolizing like 25 milligrams. And I was on the highest dose and I was like, oh my gosh, it makes complete sense. And even with him, he was like, of course you're still experiencing all these things, even when you're doing therapy and stuff. And so,
which I think brings up a good point. People say, oh, she got back from treatment and went back to it, going back to it. It's like, no. She went back to treatment because her symptoms were not gone.
They weren't gone. Well, because
now we know why.
Well, because the first time I went there, I didn't switch any medications, nothing. I went there for like really intense therapy and it helped a lot. It did. But then I came home and I felt like something was still off. And I was like, I need to go back. I think I need to switch my meds and stuff. And then I went back, did the genetic testing, still was doing very intense therapies and stuff like that. And then when my results came back that the medication I was taking wasn't even working for my body, we switched my medications, all of that, continued on with therapy, and honestly, it literally changed my life.
Yep. Genetic testing. Isn't that crazy?
Changed my life because now I'm on the lowest dose of an antidepressant medicine that you can take, and I don't feel like a zombie. I still have emotions and feelings. I can still have conversations, and I just feel, honestly, it saved my life, I feel like.
I think it did too, because I remember after the 6 weeks or whatever, after you being on the new stuff, I was like, oh wow, like there's a little bit, I can see a little bit of light coming back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It really, like, it changed my life for sure. And I think, it's been a journey for me, but I feel like people are always, I see people say like, oh, you were so selfish and you left Tyler to take on everything. And
I'm glad you were.
And yada, yada, yada. But my whole thing too, going into it though, was like, if I'm not 100% me, I can't even be nothing for my children, let alone my husband or myself. Like, I want to be the best that I can be,
And I think I'm proud of you because I think in spite of that, like you were worried about, oh my God, he's going to be burdened and he's going to feel this and he's going to feel that. But you still were like, it's worth the risk. Like,
I had to do it for myself.
You had to do it. And I remember I look back, I'm like, damn, I'm so glad you did that because we wouldn't.
I had to do it. And believe me, like, it ain't no fucking vacation or walk, like a cakewalk when you're at those places. There was lots of tearful nights, tearful days, clinging onto Nova's little stuffed animal all the time. You know what I mean? Like, and because you're working, like, it's very intense and
emotionally exhausting.
Very. And you're missing your family, and your family can't always come for visits. And, you know, fuck, I was there for fucking Christmas one year. Like, that shit sucked. Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Like, it fucking sucked. But I knew I had to do it for myself so that way I could be 100% me to then show up as a wife and as a mom. Mm-hmm. And it was scary, but it changed my life.
I think it saved it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what would have happened.
And I've commented or even like said stuff to people before where I'm like, oh, okay, so Nova could have a mom that was gone for, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, or she could have a dead mom.
Yeah.
So what's worse?
Oh, it's true. And that's what I think people don't understand is that. And also, like, I remember telling you that I can't do this anymore. If this is what it's going to be like, then we're not going to work.
Yeah.
Because there comes a point in time where I have to retreat and I have to figure out my shit. And I think when you got back from treatment, that's when I felt the freedom to do so. I was like, okay.
You could tell that I was okay. I was getting my shit.
Good. Yeah.
I was learning.
Yeah. And then you got back and I'm like, all right, I feel good. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put the back on the front burner.
Right.
And I think people criticize me a lot for that, which is fine. I mean, they criticize you for leaving, they criticize me for
of course.
But
we're always going to be criticized.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But I remember getting criticized because it was like, oh, now you're going to do a trial separation. Now you're going to do all these things. And it wasn't about...
Which, by the way, he actually spent the night at my house a lot. He couldn't leave. Ha! I was like, I thought we were supposed to be like separated, and you're still coming over here every night.
I can't help it. I couldn't help it. I thought
he wants to play big bad,
No, I fully admit I was a bitch. I didn't do the therapist that I was.
Seeing, you did for a minute.
The therapist that I was seeing was like, this is what it's called, and it's called. You just kind of like, you
just separate. To focus on yourself for a little bit.
See what it feels like. And then I remember going to my therapist after a week of it, and I was like, no. Ain't for me. And she's like, well, why? And I'm like, well, because I said, I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my kid. I said,
and I supported it. Like, it was hard for me.
Yeah, no, I know.
And I know it was hard for you too. Like, it was a hard thing, but I feel like I was like, if you feel like that's something that you need for yourself, then do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I think that's what it was required. I think for me, because I was like, I have to do this, or else what am I going to do? I didn't want to work out. Trial separation was.
I was like, he loves me.
That was an epic fail.
But I do remember there was a part of me, like when I was at my mom's one time, and my friend showed up at my mom's house, and I remember like crying, and I was like, what if he divorces me? Who's going to want to be with somebody who has 2 kids? I was so scared. Remember how I would mess you all the time, be like, you're going to divorce me.
No, and I remember.
You're going to divorce me.
The very first time you ever asked me that, I said, divorce is not even on my radar.
Yeah, and I was like, that's bullshit. He wants to divorce me.
It wasn't even close. I wasn't even thinking about divorcing. I'm thinking about, I got to separate myself from the... and I think it was important for me to do that because when you were gone, I got in robot mode of kind of like monitoring your depression, making sure Noah was good. And I got in like, my own dad robotic mode. And I knew that I had to like remove myself from it so that way I could like look at it from a different perspective.
And you deserved the time to, because me leaving put a lot on your shoulders.
Hard. Yeah, it was hard. I mean, missing, and then on top of it, it's like...
being a single dad.
Yeah, I mean...
schools and all,
just all of it. And so, I knew I needed to get out of it.
No, it makes sense. For your own mental health.
For a week.
It was longer than a week, but you would come over and spend the night.
Come over and spend the night. And then I remember feeling guilty. I'm like, I gotta go back to the house because my therapist told me I gotta do this. So I feel like I'm breaking the rules. I'm not listening.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's important when you were going through that just to feel like you needed to do whatever was necessary for your own self.
And I look back at it now and it wasn't necessary.
But maybe it was.
I don't know. I don't think it was because And I'm not saying don't listen to your therapist. I'm saying follow your intuition. My intuition never told me to do the trial separation. My intuition was saying...
Then why did you do it?
Because I'm not a professional therapist.
Okay,
and she was talking about all these things, and I'm like, okay, so maybe there's things...
I think your therapist just deep down hated me, honestly.
No.
I do. I always got bad vibes from her.
Really?
Yeah.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Swear. I was like she is fucking warping his brain.
Are you serious? I mean, she helped me a lot with Alphas. I mean, she talked...
No, stuff, yeah, but some of the scenes and stuff I've seen, I'm like, oh, she hates me. She thinks I'm crazy.
Wow, I never got... Okay, I mean, I guess if you're watching it from your whatever, okay, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. All I know is my intuition was saying otherwise, but I knew I had to be logical because I'm not a mental health professional, and I could be addicted to you, or I could be whatever the fuck was going on.
We're trauma bonded.
Yeah, we're trauma bonded. Oh my God.
That's why I'm just a weak ass bitch.
Hey, listen, I'll be honest with you, everyone out there. If we're trauma bonded, I really highly suggest it.
Right.
Because
and honestly, we have sat down with very, very smart professionals and asked the question if we are trauma bonded, and we got the word absolutely not.
And they also said that everyone to a point, if you're with someone long enough throughout a period of your life, you will bond over trauma. It won't be the only bond you have.
No.
But you go through, like, for instance, growing up and being married for a long time, you know, the spouse's parent dies. That's trauma.
Right.
You're going to bond over that.
You are. Of course.
So I think it's interesting when Dr. Mike was like, well, everyone's trauma bonded. And I was like, whoa, what does that mean? And he's like, well, what I mean by is that there's a healthy level and there's a toxic level.
Right.
He's like, but everyone, just like everyone to a point is codependent.
Yeah.
We have to be, or else all babies would die. We'd all die. I mean, so, he's like, there's a spectrum and a level of where it's toxic.
We need to get him on here and talk to us about trauma bonding. So
everyone knows.
Put the record straight.
Yeah.
Because he was like, absolutely not. The bad trauma bonded is when you're like abusing each other and just very toxic things.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so if you're going through something hard and I'm supporting you and loving you and doing good things for you to make you feel better, that's trauma bonded.
Okay, well.
Love it.
Yeah, I was like, well, we love each other. I don't know.
Bring it.
You call it trauma bond. I call it support and love, and I don't know what else to call it.
I don't understand it.
Hey, if we're trauma bond, I highly suggest it for people, so. I mean, I'm confirmed that we're not, because we've got confirmed from multiple people, but hey.
Like I said before, and people will hear me probably say it a lot on here, is like, well, I sleep good at night next to you. So, and I enjoy our cuddles and our snuggles. So,
we're not abused, and you know what I mean? Like,
well, people think I am.
well, it's like when
you control all of my things.
Yeah, I'm a dictating motherfucker. But people, like, it's also, even with our friends and stuff, I'll see, like, and hear some of their issues in their relationships, and I'm like, dude,
whoa,
if they think we're, like, I mean, like, dude, like, I don't think people understand. We don't fight.
No, we don't.
We don't raise our voice. Nothing.
No.
And
we've never called each other out of our name. Yeah. Nothing.
It's almost like kind of weird that, like, I almost like something wrong with us, because why are we? It's not nothing wrong with us.
No, I tell you, our souls.
People, you just don't learn how to communicate. We have done such a good job of, like,
and honey, we've been together for, like, this year will be 18 years?
Yeah, 18 fucking years.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of work throughout all of the years, So, of course.
I just think it's interesting, though, how it's like, people are like, well, every couple fights, and I'm like, that's not true.
No, I think,
if you fight, it's how you fight.
Right, like, do we have disagreements? Of course. Yeah. Can we talk about them? Of course.
But I'm saying, like, I would never consider anything that we've had a fight, in my opinion.
No, I think the only fight I can ever recall was the one time. Do you remember that?
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I don't know.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
When we lived on Clinton Street?
And you threw the keys in my face?
Oh, no, I think I was pregnant with Carly at that time, wasn't I? I don't know. The only one I can think of, is that one when I threw the keys at your face.
Yeah.
And then the other one when we were drinking, though. This was before kids or anything. Drinking.
We're like 20 or something.
Yeah, and we, like, got in a fight in Ryan Terhune's car.
Yes.
And then I was, like, walking down the street.
Dirt road always.
Yeah, and then you were chasing me, and then we got home.
Come back.
Got home, and then we were arguing about, like, who each other followed on fucking Facebook.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that part.
Yeah.
I remember the fight walking on the dirt road all drunk trying to catch you. Like, no, don't let my girlfriend walk down the road. I was like, we gotta get her, dude.
By the way, we were not drunk driving. We had to drive.
No, yeah, he was driving. Yeah, he wasn't. But we were like, I remember saying, like, don't let her walk. I'm walking home. I'm like, dude, we're 50 miles from home in the back roads.
Started it.
I don't know either, but yeah, like we don't, we just don't fight. So I feel like, and I'm saying, like, it's not if you fight, it's how you fight.
Right.
And I think how we fight, I wouldn't even call it fight, but how we disagree is not toxic. It's not.
No, it's healthy.
We
have a conversation. We always come to a conclusion. I think me and you are both the same in the sense of, like, I cannot go to sleep without having a fucking conversation and coming to a conclusion. Even if that conclusion is like, you can do it, but I just don't agree with it or whatever. But I could not. I gotta figure out a solution right now. Sleep. Yeah.
And I think it's important because it's like one of those old cliche things, but don't go to sleep mad at each other. That's a legit thing.
Well, that's my personality though. I wouldn't be able to just sit next to you in bed. I'd be like,
or like I notice a lot of like people we know, they'll like just pretend that nothing ever happened.
Yeah, which that's the worst.
And that's the worst. I could never deal with that anxiety, bro.
Sweeping the shit under the rug. It's always going to come back up and bite you, by the way.
I couldn't do it.
Absolutely not. One thing going back to mental health, though, I do remember my first psych class in college learning about how if you're going to have a mental illness, it always typically comes before the age of 22. When you will have like that by that time, if you pass 22, it's like way less likely for you to come and have a mental health illness or whatever. And I remember being so mad that I fucking didn't make it 1 year. I was like, this is some bullshit. It had to be handed to me right at fucking 21. I mean, I look at my childhood and shit, everything that I went through, adoption, all of that. I'm like, of course, how could I not? Fuck. But I remember being pissed about that. I'm like, wow, if it would have just waited one fucking year.
But your panic attack was pretty bad. And
I don't think people realize that it literally, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And then to literally be woken up out of a deep sleep I thought I was having a heart attack. I went to the hospital 3 times, made them give me EKGs. I didn't know what the fuck was happening.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was bad. But thankfully, years and years out of it, I'm glad that I went through what I went through because now I'm so freaking self-aware. Like, I can tell to a T, like, oh, I need to call my counselor, or, like...
What's that? Like, even with stuff with your mom recently and stuff, you're like, I'm calling.
Yep, I gotta talk to somebody, process this with somebody.
And it's kind of crazy because look at the polarity. Like, I don't need to come in the bedroom and say, hey, are you okay? Something's wrong with you. You go, something's wrong with me. I gotta call.
It's all about learning and growth and, learning about what tools you need and all of that.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Thanks. Well, thank you for being there for me.
Yeah, I love you.
And for Nova, and...
I love you too much.
Let's just hope Nova doesn't carry any trauma from that.
I
hope not.
I don't know, honey. We're gonna inevitably traumatize our fucking kids eventually. So.
In one way or another, right?
Another.
Okay, so...
Moving on.
Yeah. I do have one more thing to say about it, but I don't know.
What? What do you mean?
Well, one of my things is what also is like fucked up with the world. We talked about postpartum depression and there being no, like not a lot of things out there for women as far as help when it comes to that. I think another really messed up part is if you do not have money.
I know.
And you have a mental health illness, they want you to stay sick. Mm-hmm. Because the amount of money that I spent out of my own pocket for my mental health is ridiculous.
It is.
And it's wrong.
We're the only country that has this
problem. So they want the poor to stay sick and poor, and they want the rich to stay mentally well and rich.
Enabled.
And that's horrible.
It is.
Any Joe Schmo from the walks of any part of the earth that is struggling with mental health deserves to get help.
I agree. And it should be covered.
Absolutely.
It's a mental health thing.
Absolutely.
But I think it's the whole problem is that we have to eventually get to a point where we're looking at it as a real... We need to look at mental health the same way you look at diabetes. Oh my God, you have diabetes. You diagnosed? Okay, great. Mm-hmm. EpiPen, diet change, you get a treatment plan.
Right.
We need to literally look at mental health the same exact way And so
it's an illness.
To incorporate the mental health into the full biology of
a human
health issues. You know what I'm saying? Stop separating it.
Yeah.
And stop like demonizing it and stop like, just don't stop doing that. It's a health
sick.
problem.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
So,
sick.
Come on, dude.
Cause like I said, Nova could have a dead mom.
Mm-hmm.
Or a mom that had to go somewhere to put in some work for herself.
Or divorced parents who are,
Right.
I mean, that's a whole, so it's like.
And I don't think people realize that. Like, I literally was at the point where I was like, I cannot live another day like this. Like, I would rather be dead.
Yeah. And that's what I was concerned about. I knew something was wrong. I'm like, dude, I really,
And that's not a good feeling.
No.
Suicidal ideation is fucking ridiculous.
And I also think it's crazy, too, because like, I'm just glad that you never had to deal with it, like watching because I think you'd have a hard time if you watch me just like completely just like.
Oh my God, horrible time.
It's just like, because you start, it's hard.
I'd be doing what you did. I'll be like, all right, we're going here.
Yeah.
We're talking to this
but
person.
Also, it's hard enough to question, is something wrong with me?
Oh.
Remember when I was like, it's gotta be me. I gotta be like, and you're like, no, Tyler, it's nothing with you. It's me. It's my own shit. It's my mom. It's my life. It's my trauma. And I'm like, are you sure? Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard not to internalize it. Like, okay, she's just not happy with me or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. When in fact, it's like, no, I just have a bunch of shit here that I can't figure out on my own.
Yeah. It's just
that I need to figure it out.
Yeah.
So that shit should be free.
It's just.
Because there was a few times where I was like, I'm about to go check myself into the loony bin in New Baltimore. And you were like, absolutely not.
No, you're not.
And I'm like, well, I need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Shit, put me on I need a sticky grip sock vacation in the fucking
sticky grip.
in the fucking hospital. Put me on a 72-hour hold, bitch.
I need a paper dress, sticky sock,
padded room vacation. That's where I was at. Straight up.
Damn.
Tell you what, this sounds good right now. I need a 72-hour hold. No, I'm just kidding. Oh shit. So I did get some unlicensed advice questions.
Okay.
Dun, 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 dun.
Unlicensed advice.
I love it.
Oh,
okay.
God.
So I wrote down 4 different questions, but one is, how do you have a relationship with a toxic parent without getting hurt?
I would say boundaries is the only way to do it, because and I mean boundaries, and I think people should understand the difference between boundaries and ultimatums.
Yeah, you can't give ultimatums.
They are 2 different things, and I think people can sometimes like mesh them together, and they're not.
I think it's hard to.
A boundary is to protect me, and an ultimatum is to control somebody else
and their actions
and their behavior.
Right.
You can never control somebody else's behavior. Impossible. Can't do it. Waste of time. You're gonna drive yourself crazy trying to do so.
Right. So
so you can't. You just. First off, get those 2 things out of your mind. Where I think people, my boundary is you don't stop doing this. I'm going to do this. That a boundary is not a response to them doing something wrong or bad to spite them. It's for yourself. It's to protect yourself. It's
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah. Like for instance, so with my mom, I had to create boundaries in order to make myself feel comfortable. And safe. Yep. And my boundaries with her is just don't drink around me and don't drink around my kids. If you're going to drink, let me know ahead of time and I'll say, all right, I'll come over, we'll get together next weekend or whatever. I'm not saying you can't ever drink.
Right.
Because then that's me trying to control her. It's just.
So in a way, it's almost like your boundaries actually more or less like your boundaries to yourself. Like my boundary is I will leave and remove myself from the situation if I notice her drinking.
Right.
That's the boundary.
Yes.
The boundary has nothing to do with her personal behavior. It's like, okay, well, boundaries are also really, nobody can enforce a boundary but you.
Right.
The person can't, you are in control of enforcing the boundary or not.
And make yourself feel powerful in enforcing it.
Doing
because it can be scary to enforce your boundaries.
Especially when you're so used to a certain dynamic.
Yes.
It's hard to break that. I always call it the dance.
Yeah.
And I remember it's funny because I remember bringing that up to you like years into our relationship where I'm like, you and your mom have a certain dance you do. And that's the only way I could explain it. I'd watch it happen in real time. And come to find out, it was like your dynamic. That's the dynamic you created with your mom. And so it takes one person to stop moving. I'm going to stop dancing.
Yep.
And the other person starts going, whoa, you missed a step. We got to twirl. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
I'm not dancing the right way. And
right.
Well, I'm actually just kind of stopping this dance. I'm stopping this dynamic. I'm switching it to something more healthy for me.
And unfortunately, too, I think to other advice for this person is, you know, if your parent is not respecting your boundaries, then you might have to step away for a while.
No.
And just say, like, if it's still hurting you in a sense, then, and they're not respecting what you asked to make you feel safe, then I think you need to kind of cut ties with that person.
Temporarily or permanently. Just
or whatever feels right to you.
Yeah.
And kind of reevaluate after the fact.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I have another one that said, how do I talk to my partner about not being satisfied in the bedroom without hurting them?
I would just, first off, I'd be honest. You have to be honest and communicate.
Yeah.
I mean, I think going into it with the intention of trying not to hurt their feelings is going to be messy.
Right. And just go into it. Maybe go into it in the fact of like, we're going to make our sex life fire.
Yeah. Like go into it being like, my goal is to make this amazing.
Right.
Not to criticize you, not to judge you, not to make you feel like shit about yourself. It's to literally just, I'm trying to get the best out of this.
Right.
So
because it is hard. I can understand, like,
I get it.
Being nervous.
Yeah. Especially if it has something to do with them, like.
And this was a female. Talking about a male.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can get where she's like, I don't want to hurt his feelings or make him feel like inadequate.
I guess my thing is though is that you can't worry about hurting his feelings. You first need to just ask yourself, what do I want? What do I need? What am I missing? And then you fill in the gaps. You don't need to tell them why you're like, well, it's like, just, okay, this is what I want. This is what I need. And then my whole thing is that like, it's completely a possibility that what you want or what you need, he can't do. Okay. And that is something that I think people need to like get comfortable with. Because
then what do you do?
It's a whole different.
Okay. Right.
Right.
Okay,
so we got to first establish this is what I need. Can you provide yes or no?
Okay.
Right. And then I think asking yourself the question to yourself first before asking him, I need this. And it's like, well, he can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then kind of prioritizing it in your own head before coming to him and saying it. Cause if you do it to yourself in your head, you can go, okay, but you know, that could help. And so I definitely think don't approach him without having your own solution. Like I've thought about it, what I want and what I need, and here's a solution. You know what I mean? And that I thought of. Do you have any solutions? Is there anything I can do? Also, I think reciprocating, like, hey, I'm going to tell you what I wish you could do better or what I'm missing or what I need, and then invite him to do the same exact thing. Yeah. To say because
there might be things he's not telling you.
Exactly. And that's what's kind of creating this weird, like, I'm not going to say nothing because I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to hurt your feelings. And it's like, well, you know what? If we're in this for the long haul, I've always said this, I'm not afraid to hurt your feelings. I can apologize later on. Yeah. If it happens, but we got to get to the nitty gritty.
Well, you got to be real and talk to each other.
Because me and you are a firm believer that is one of the pinnacles.
You have to be honest.
You have to be honest. Yeah. You have to communicate and you have to have a healthy sex life. That's it. I mean.
And like when I saw her question too, I was like, what would I do in that situation?
Yeah. What would you do?
I was thinking like, all right, if I was in that situation, like when we were getting it on, I'd be like, talk even in that sense when it's happening. Like, when you do this, it feels really good.
Right.
You know,
do that again, or that was really great.
Or that hurt. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Or you know, because you don't have to be like silence.
Right.
It's like quiet in the middle of being intimate. Like speak about what feels good, what doesn't feel good.
I think sometimes it's also better because you're in the moment and it's organic. You're not like, you don't have time to go, oh man, all right, she didn't like that last night.
Right. So maybe that would be easier to her if you don't want to hurt his feelings. Like, when you do this, that feels fucking amazing. Or when you do this, that, no, that hurts.
Or I don't like that. That's weird.
Right. I don't know.
And I mean, I guess I'm thinking about, oh my God, I don't know if we're in the middle of doing something, you're like, ew, don't do that. But, what?
Well, you don't say it like that. You say, nah, that hurts.
No, you're talking about pain.
I know.
Not every girl's getting hurt. True. So what I'm saying is that, like, if it's not having to do with pain, and you're just
you're just like, I don't really like that. I don't like that.
Because what if in the middle of role reversal, in the middle, I'm like, ew, don't do that. Or I would say ew.
Yeah. Why would you say ew?
Don't do that.
Okay, I think we have said that before.
I've said that to you?
I think I've said that to you before.
Because you're thinking of pain, like, don't do that. Oh, yeah. You know, you got to get okay, I'm thinking of, like, not everybody's in pain. So what I'm saying is that vice versa, you don't hurt me besides when you had the fucking IUD. But if I said something Like, don't do that. That wasn't hot. I didn't like that at all.
I guess it would have to lead you into conversation. Why? Yeah, why don't you like it?
Stop, what?
Yeah, why? Why don't you like that?
True. Maybe that's what needs to happen. How about everyone just, you know what? Hey, whoa. Let's just, okay.
So there needs to be some honest communication happening.
And I think, listen, you don't always have to use words spoken. You can write it in a note. You can text it. You can, everyone feels safer. Just communicate in the safest way for you. But I also think, like, talk about your needs and wants and then come up with your own solutions, or at least ideas of a solution.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, I think even man, woman, if I tell you, I don't like that, and then you go, well, what should I do? And I go, I don't know, but I don't like that.
Yeah,
that's
doesn't help.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so figure out what your own solution could be, so that way you have options to, like...
Well, so that way you have a very productive conversation about the issue.
Could you imagine if I was like, I don't like you do that, and you're like, well, what should I do different? I'm like, I don't know, just don't do that.
I'd be like, not help me at all. Like so I'm not doing it right, but then you don't know what needs to happen.
But it's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that I kept seeing from our Instagram was the frequency. Like I think when we say the relationship advice, a lot of it's sexual. Like a lot of it's like has to do with
it's a huge part of a relationship,
which I think reiterates my point that I think it's one of the number one pinnacles things.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the frequency? Some people are like, oh, I don't want it more than once or twice a week. Some people are like, I want it 4 times a week, and it's like that's also an important conversation. I also think there are therapists that are specifically for this issue.
Yeah,
a sex therapist will probably open up all the doors you need to be opened in a safe space.
Yeah, and then you have a mediator where you don't have to feel like you're hurting his feelings or something, you know?
And you talk to a therapist outside, like, this is my problem. They go, okay, we can deliver that in a way that protects everybody. It feels great. So, boom.
Yeah, that's even something to look into.
Yeah.
All right, so the last one that I thought it was good, and obviously this person is wanting to go about this the right way. I wasn't really, it's kind of a hard one for me, but they said, I'm wanting to adopt, but we are struggling with trying to find the most ethical options. In your opinion, do you think there's any ethical adoption?
I don't necessarily think there is an ethical way to adopt that is completely, fully child-centered, unless all parties are trauma-informed people.
Yeah.
That means the adoptive parents, the birth parents, and whatever. Like, they both need to be very trauma-informed about what adoptees experience. My opinion, I don't think infant adoption is ethical. I just don't. I think foster care adoption is very ethical, because you're already going to children in a crisis who need help. They need help. They're already born. They're already here. They're already suffering, really. The foster care system is full of children.
Yeah.
Yearning for that. So I think the question is, what do you seek to get out of adoption? Do you seek to be a mom to a newborn baby and be able to raise the baby from a baby to an adult?
Because that's so you probably shouldn't adopt.
If so, I don't think you should adopt, because no baby is a blank slate. You don't just get a baby separated from its mother and has maternal separation trauma and preverbal trauma and stuff like that, and it's a blank slate.
And try to make it your own.
It's not going to happen, and that's an unfortunate thing. I think if you're struggling with infertility, that you should go and heal, or at least start the process of dissecting that infertility trauma way before you adopt, way before even thinking about it. And if it comes to the point where you do want to adopt, I highly suggest the next step is through foster care. I don't think private infant adoption is ethical in any way that I can find out there. So
yesterday I was speaking on a live with a few adoptees that we talked to. I was on live with them. And then also this birth mom on there, or not this birth mom, this adoptive mom that's on there. And herself, she said, she adopted her son. It was through like foster care stuff. But she even said, in turn, if she could go back, she would even do things differently. And she said, I would do like a legal permanent guardianship. Yep. She said, because then his birth certificate would have stayed the same. a lot of his rights would have stayed the same, but I still would be considered like a parent to be able to make all the decisions for him. But, and I was like, wow, that was very shocking to me. And I was like, I'm very proud of you for saying that. Cause even she, you know, and she is a very open adoption. And so.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. She actually said that, that she was not trauma informed when she first adopted, and that she learned. So I had to really learn as an adoptive mom. I had to break down my own stereotypes that I built in my head. And she's like, I used to justify some of the decisions I made. I used to justify my desire to be a mom by minimizing or pretty much avoiding the fact that it was trauma based.
Yeah.
You don't have adoption without trauma.
Right. And so I thought it was interesting, this person that wrote, she's like, she's not finding any ethical options. And it's like, because
there's not.
No.
There's not any ethical options. That's why when we're talking about infant adoption, we're talking about the adoption's not necessary. Kinship adoption, aunts, uncles, somewhere
grandmas,
filial, anything. That's the first option, I think. If a birth mom is in a situation where it's a crisis and she can't do this and it's not
actually
safe for
first
the baby.
Option should be like resources.
Well, of course. No, right.
Second option, would be like kinship adoption.
But yeah, kinship adoption and guardianship. I even know like the word, using the word adoption. Like guardianship is a really, it's the same thing. So I think all prospective adoptive parents, ask yourself, what is my intention for doing this? Is it to help children?
Right, or is it just to become a parent?
Is it to become a parent? Because your infertility trauma does not make you entitled to anyone else's baby. And you can't justify that desire by saying, I'm saving the kid, I'm helping.
Ew, that's gross. Don't ever say that.
Don't ever say it. You're not, no. That's disturbing. Adoptees don't like that.
And then it also just reiterates what adoptees think. Like, oh, they saved me, and I need to be grateful.
I shouldn't want to find my birth family. I shouldn't be having these issues, identity crisis that I'm having, because I should be grateful. I'm taken care of. And that's just not something you do. So I think any prospective adoptive parents, read The Primal Wound. Talk to a therapist about your infertility trauma or why you can't have
or start the process of it. Yeah, because it's got to be very painful.
Yeah, because I know that there are some people who they just grow up and go, I don't want to have my own natural kids. I just want to adopt. Okay, if you want to do that, foster care.
Right.
Help the children who really need it and are already born
or
and alive.
Or be like a very great foster parent to help their biological family get on their feet and do the parenting classes.
Because foster care is designed for reunification.
Right.
With the biological family, and that's why,
because we know that that's best.
That we know it's best. There's data out there, so just don't go into this blindly, and also don't go into it selfishly. I know you want to be a parent. I understand that, and I think your trauma about not being able to be one is valid and it's real. However, that is your responsibility to figure out, and it is not the responsibility of an innocent child to fulfill that hole or that
who had no choice.
To rob them of their biological identity, et cetera, to fill this void that you have because you can't have your own children.
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's not child-centered. If you can adopt, it needs to be child-centered, period, all the way around.
Beautiful. I think so, too. Yeah, because my first thought to her question, I was like, well, permanent legal guardianship.
Yes.
That's the only way that I see it being ethical. Because then that gives the birth parent some rights, too, and some protection, and also the child.
It's a child, and you still have guardianship. You still can make all the legal decisions. It's primary custodial. I mean, you still,
forever.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
Adoption is literally
just strip them of everything.
It's a legal transfer. Of that's all it is. Like, it's literally, there's nothing else to it. So
that was my thing that came to my mind. But all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us and listening to this episode. Make sure you like and follow everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. And we just, again, appreciate all the love and the support that we've received, and it's been fun.
We love it. So subscribe, like, share, comment, whatever you
give us all the love.
Give us all the love. We need it.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Are you looking for your next case? Pluto TV has all your favorite crime dramas streaming for free.
You're gonna need some backup.
Which means suspense is free.
Very cool.
Watch CSI New York, Criminal Minds, Blue Bloods, Tracker, FBI, and SWAT all for free.
You can't outrun this.
Someone is gonna pay for all this crime. But it's not gonna be you.
Take care of business, fellas.
Watch all the cases, all for free, from all your favorite devices.
We got you.
Feel the free. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.